Hello, this is Ear Trash, and this is going to be part 2 of my series on how to make a dubstep track in Ableton Live. If you haven't seen part 1, then please click this annotation on the screen now, and that will take you to the video. And may I also remind you to please rate the video if it helped, and you can also favourite it as well. Also, if you aren't subscribed to my channel, then please subscribe and send me a friend request, because sometimes YouTube videos do not appear in the subscription boxes. So with all that said and done, I'm going to get onto the tutorial. On the last video we created drum racks, and here we have kicks, hats and snares and claps. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put effects into these individual tracks and make the sounds a lot clearer and bring them out a bit. So first things first, we're going to start off with the kicks. Now with kicks, it's worth noting that anything below 50 Hz is inaudible, but it can still MIDI up a mix. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a EQ8 onto the kick track by just clicking and dragging it onto the kicks, and it'll appear here. And now I'm just going to take the first point and drag it down to there, and take the second point and drag it to about the 80 Hz mark. So what that does is basically rolls off any of the bottom frequency that might be MIDIing up the mix. And when I play it, you should hardly notice any difference with the actual sound. Okay, so now I'm going to double click that just to minimize that instrument, and now I'm going to move on to our hi-hats. So I'm going to double click our hi-hats and solo them just to see what they sound like. So they're pretty quiet, but I don't really want the hats to be too loud. The main part of any beat really is usually the kicks and the snares. The hi-hats are just kind of a filler, just to keep the rhythm going and keep it interesting. So now I'm going to go into my hi-hats and I'm going to listen to the different sounds. Okay, so there's that one. There's our open hat. There's our closed hat and our cabasa. Now what I'm going to do here is a little trick that I like to do with my hats, and that is using autopan. So I'm going to drop an autopan onto each one of these sounds. So there's one. Put it onto there. Put it onto there, and put one onto there. Now we've got our autopans onto our sounds, and what the autopan basically does is moves the sound from the left to the right speaker or vice versa. So with this sound here, the prime loops hi-hat, link in the description, I've got my autopan and I'm going to put the amount up to about 50%. I'm going to leave the rate there. I'm going to put the phase to about 110 and the shape up a little bit, and we solo that, and we should be able to hear that the sound is going from left to right. Okay, that sounds okay. Now we're going to move on to our open hi-hat, and because this sound isn't really used much, we don't want to put too much autopan on this. So we're going to put the amount on to about 33% and put the rate down to about 0.26. And the phase around 100, I'll just leave it 180. And so that's going to be quite a slow panning and quite a subtle pan. We'll see what that sounds like now. Okay, it's a bit too much. I'm going to take the pan down a bit, the amount down a bit. Okay, so that's a bit more subtle. And the closed hat. Okay, so with the closed hat we're going to do the same, but we're going to give it a bit more. And we're going to increase the rate to about 15 Hz. And put the phase down to about 65 degrees. And the shape up. Let's see what that sounds like now. I think we could do a bit more. Maybe a bit less actually. And basically all we're doing here is we're just tweaking it until we get a nice kind of balance. We don't want it to be too left and too right. So that's sounding okay. Now we're going to check out the cabasa. Okay, so this is quite a non-frequent sound. So we're gonna put on quite a fast rate for this. And put the phase all the way to 360. No, we're not. We're gonna take the phase down a bit. Shape up a bit. And that's sounding quite good. So let's see what all these sound like together now. So you should be able to hear that the hats are sounding a lot better now, and they're all kind of dancing about in the mix. And if you think that the effect is too much, what you could do is you could put a utility onto the hats. So then your utility will appear at the end of the chain, and you could maybe take the width down a bit. If it was a 0%, it would sound like this. And that's got no stereo width. And when it's at maximum, it would be like this. So we're going to take it around about 90%. Also, we're going to put on a EQ. And we're going to change it to a cutoff like that. So it's cutting at the low ends. And we're also going to give it a boost around about the 2 kHz mark. And just put the quantize up a bit so it's a bit sharper. Give it a little tweak at the top end as well. We're also going to add another point in by selecting this button here. 5. And drop that down there just so it's taking off the very, very high frequencies that you're not going to hear anyway. And let's see what that sounds like now. Okay, so that's sounding pretty good. Now we're going to move on to our snares. So at the moment we've just got snare drums in here, and what I want to do is add in a clap sound. So I'm going to go to my samples folder, and I'm going to click the search button and type in clap. While we're waiting for this, I'd just like to remind you to please rate the video if it helps you. I'm not going to search through my whole hard drive, I'm just going to use this first clap that comes to hand. So I'm going to drop that into our snares and claps and give that a little listen. And what I want to do with the clap is put some reverb on it to give it a sort of big hall effect to make the beat sound a lot bigger. So I'm going to double click reverb and drop that onto the clap. Let's see what that sounds like. It's sounding pretty puny just now. So I'm going to take off the high cut, put on a low cut instead and take out the low frequencies. Put the pre-delay to about 1.34 milliseconds. This is a good tip for getting better sound quality out of your reverb. That is, change the quality of the reverb to high. I'm also going to put the size up a bit, and the stereo down, and the decay to around about 3 seconds. Let's see what that sounds like now. When I dropped that clap in, Ableton for some reason decided to have that playing on the same note as one of the kick drums. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this I/O button here and put it on its own note. So now it won't be playing with the kick, it should have its own channel. Yeah, so now it's got a channel down the bottom. So I'm just going to find out where about I want to put this. I want to put it about there, on the second snare. So I'm also going to give the snare drum some reverb as well, so I'm going to do the same with that. Click and drag the reverb onto snare, and I'm pretty much copy the last one. Do a low cut, quality. We'll put this one on medium because it's not going to be such a prominent effect. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. What I could also do is put in some subtle EQ onto the snares, just to take out any low end frequencies which might be muddying up the mix. So at this point, after listening to all the sounds together, I think that the kicks could maybe do a bit more compression just to give them a little bit more punch. So I'm going to drop a compressor onto the kick track, and the compressor should appear at the end here. And I'm going to use an Ableton preset 1976. And what that's done is that's increased the volume, so I might have to take the volume down a little bit. So that's our effects onto our drum racks. In the next video I'm going to start going over how to make bass lines and give the track some character by using effects and automation. So I'm going to put an annotation here, and you can click this for my next video. And please remember, once again, to please rate the video and favourite, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video.